Hello and welcome to the AVRUM ROSENSWEIG show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the show. My name is AVRUM ROSENSWEIG, and I am here with my very dear friend and my colleague, Rabbi Shlomo Gemara. How are you, Rabbi?
Baruch Hashem, how are you, AVRUM?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I do want to announce to our listeners and our viewers for the second week in a row that we have launched a new iteration of our podcast. The first one was fantastic. It was Parsha and Prose, and it was predicated on the Parsha through the lens of classic literature. This one is called Torah in Real Time. And I will tell you first off that every time I've mentioned the name to somebody, everybody has loved it. And I think they quickly understand what we're trying to do, which is to take the Parsha of the week and to see how it applies to current events. Would that be accurate, Rabbi?
That's a very good way to describe it. We really believe that the Parsha is not only a text reading. Somehow, the Parsha comes to highlight our life and to give us some direction. So all kind of current events sometimes are well lit by the light of the Parsha. And we try just to expose it.
Exactly. And we also like to have a bit of a schmooze before we will launch into the Parsha about things that are happening in our life, in our world, in Israel, in the Jewish community. You know, one thing that I was thinking about yesterday, Rabbi, is that I was at a dear friend's house, Bert, and his mother passed away about 5 weeks ago. And he has just finished the Shloshim, therefore, like you have, with your father. We discussed a bit of it last week. But you know what amazed me is that his mother, who was probably 90 years old, she was sick for a while, but not too bad. And I see that, not that he's recovered from his loss, but his life has continued. And we had some great laughs last night. We had dinner together. It was very enjoyable. And I was thinking to myself, it's so compelling how we move on from, such great loss.
Our sages said a striking truth. Gzeira alamet shishtakech min halev. It's a decree, heavenly decree, that the dead people eventually are going to fade from the memory of a person, and they see it as a blessing, because otherwise we will not be able to continue on with our life. So I would say that the Shloshim, the year, is to find the balance, which is a very fine balance between acknowledging the loss, understanding the loss, reflecting on the loss, and at the same time to take the legacy of the deceased person or parent and to decide what am I doing with it. Yerusha is not only the money people leave behind them, it's their legacy, it's what they stood for. And it cannot be overnight. Sometimes I go to, today there are modern Shivas, only 3 days, only a few hours. But there is a huge wisdom in the Shiva time, in the Shloshim time. You see, I did not even go to the barber yet. I'm waiting that someone will scream on me, how do you look like, or something like this, because this is a requirement of the halacha. You don't have to do it in live stream, AVRUM. And we digest it. Digest it. And indeed, I feel every day that I get used to the fact that I cannot call Erev Shabbos to my father. I'm not going to talk to him. But at the same time, my father made his way to my heart more than it was before. Many things that I think about, should I do this? this way or this way, I think about how my father would do it, how my father would approach it. So it takes time. It takes time between the pain and the avelut, the mourning process, and to continue with their life. And maybe, goes for years. The halacha is that kibud avaim is not only when the parents are alive, but also when they are not, they are no longer with us. So, as I told someone this week, when I go to the Torah, they will call me Shlomo ben Elazar Tzvi. This is my name. My father's name is, in a way, will be ingrained in my name. We just have to learn how to live with the loss and to continue the legacy.
It's a nice thought, Rabbi. I think that it's appropriate that we have a discussion for a few minutes about anti-Semitism in Canada. There's no question about it. It's not diminishing. It's getting worse. And we are talked about around the world. I've seen articles, certainly in Israel, about Canada and the rise in anti-Semitism and other social media outlets. In your school, is there a lot of security? Is there fear? Is there discussion around anti-Semitism and how it might impact the school?
I don't see fear, but we certainly pay a lot of attention to security issues, awareness, and it became part of school life. We just have recently many principals who came from, especially from the United States, but also from England, Mexico, and we all shared this concern about security of Jewish places. It became a top on the list of head of schools, principal all over North America and Europe. So fear, I don't feel fear. I don't sense that our students are fearful. But certainly it became an issue. Every parent who come to our school will see like a police car. They will see security almost every few meters. Yeah, it's an issue.
Why do you think that anti-Semitism is increasing so dramatically in Canada?
Listen, this question is a question that you can ask in every generation, in every place. There is apparently ingrained anti-Semitism. I don't know where it comes from because, I live my life as a Jew, not as a non-Jew, and I don't know where it comes from. There were a generation it came from the church. There were a generation it came from the poor people. There were a generation it came from the rich people. It's very, very hard to detect this virus. This virus is going through mutations all the time. And as I said before, one time they hate the Jews because they don't have a land. Now they have a land, they have a country, they hate them for having a country. One time it was a Christian, one time is a Muslim, one time is they are too capitalist, sometimes they are too socialist, sometimes, you know what, you cannot come with a logical explanation. There is something there. I don't know exactly what it is. As a rabbi, I tell you that in a way, anti-Semitism not only not breaking us, but in a way, it helps us to define ourselves. It's very sad that we have to define ourselves this way, how others see us. But in every generation, as I said, a lot of the self-definition of the Jewish community was the in light or reaction to how the non-Jews saw them as a community. And I just learned to accept it. There were days that I saw the social media and I was depressed. Why do they hate us? We just want to help everyone. We are good people. We treat people with dignity. And yes, if there are few people that behave against the values of Torah or the values of the Jewish community, you have it in every community. You cannot portray the entire Jewish community, which is generous and nice and want to integrate and want to and better the world. You cannot describe them because you have few people who are not. But for some reason, unknown reason, maybe maybe you should interview one day an anti-Semite that will explain you why do they see it this way, because it's really disturbing us. But I learned to accept it.
Yeah, I've thought of that, but I've kind of flipped it around on its ear, and I much prefer asking people why anti-Semitism exists and how we can fix it. I interviewed a fellow this week, Peter Wiley, who is a former boxer and somebody who set up a boxing club downtown in Cabbagetown, and he was a policeman. He walked the beat. This man, he's 80 years old. He loves the Jewish people. And he wrote me a few notes afterwards about how terrible it is that the Palestinian flag was raised in Toronto this past week, of which we will speak about in Torah in real time, and how he said that the Jewish people are so incredible in terms of what we've done in the world and our resilience. So that's the approach that I like to take, Rabbi, because I know that if I were to interview an anti-Semite, I know what the interview would sound like, and it would be a garbled mess of inconsistencies and irrational ideas. So I prefer not to do it. But I have a story to tell you, and with that, a question, and then we will move into Torah in real time. Rabbi Sachs tells a story about a rabbi in Russia who was approached by a woman who lived there, and she said that her neighbor was calling her Zid, which is a pejorative term for Jew. It's like kike in Russia. And she asked the rabbi, what should I do about this? He said, look, had you come to me, you're coming to me, I have no idea that you're Jewish. I can't tell. But I will tell you something. I've been in Russia for a number of years. I have a beard. I wear a kippah. I walk the streets. And nobody ever calls me Zid. And he goes, the reason for that is because if they were to call me Zid, they would say they're insulting me. If they call you Zid, they feel, oh, they're giving you a compliment. So the idea is be proud of who you are. Be proud of being a Jew. Don't hide it. Wear your kippah, wear your Magen David, and so on. It's very clear that you're Jewish. Have you heard any anti-Semitic call-outs while you're walking to shul on Shabbat, as an example?
No. I'm 30 years in Toronto. There was one time that maybe I made a mistake while driving, and someone shouted a really bad word and acknowledged, like he recognized me as a Jew, and he slurred. But this was the only time. But again, I'm part of. I'm an Israeli. I'm a Jew. I see what the social media is telling other people about us, and I find myself very offended. And although he did not title it to Rabbi Gemara is part of the Jewish community, and I feel very insulted and offended by these unjustified remarks.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. And the thing that I always think about, Rabbi, is the beauty of our people. You mentioned last week, if Jews would only understand what Torah is, then they would embrace it. And I feel if the non-Jew understood who we really are, decent, loving, caring people full of chesed and kindness, that perhaps this is naive, but many more would embrace us for who we are. That's what I think.
I'm sure 100%. I'm sure 100% it's true. And I do believe strongly that most of anti-Semites simply know nothing about us.
Yeah, I agree.
And I hear that they sell anti-Semitic books in Japan. I say, like, there was no Jewish community in Japan. Why should they hate us? They know nothing about us.
The good news, though, is that they study Talmud in South Korea. I think that's very interesting. They say everybody's read the Talmud, and I think, no, you can't read the Talmud. But thank you, though. You have to embrace them, right?
I hope they enjoy it.
Rabbi, I want to introduce our show today. Before I do, I have a dear friend who's a printer, and I just want to shout out for him. For all your printing and large format signage requirements, visit Impress Digital. Signs are us, and it's conveniently located in Vaughan, serving the GTA. We offer everything: car magnets, car wraps, real estate signage, like for sale signs and more. Mention the show and to David, the owner, and you'll receive a discount. Contact David Ben Simon at 647-280-0132. That's 647-280-0132. And if people want to advertise on our show, that you have my email at the bottom there, just send a note to me and we'll talk about it. Okay, here we go. This week we read Parshat Toledot, or we study
Sorry.
Parshat Toledot. Bless you. A portion whose very name means generations, yet it confronts us not with smooth continuity, but with tension, with struggle, and the messy reality of a family trying to find its way. We meet Isaac and Rebekah, the only monogamous couple in the Torah. It's an interesting fact. Hoping, praying, waiting for children. Their twins, Jacob and Esau, arrive in a swirl of contrast, one red and wild, the other quiet and calculating. From the moment they wrestle in the womb, destiny and personality collide. In Toledot, the family tries to understand its future. Isaac searches for blessings. Rebekah wrestles with prophecy. Esau seeks love but sells his birthright. Jacob navigates ambition, disguise, and the heavy weight of expectations. Nothing is simple, yet everything is unforgettable. This portion asks us to look honestly at our own stories, the blessings we inherited, the one we fought for, and the ones we seek. It challenged us to examine how we shape the next generation, not only through faith and tradition, but through imperfections, the choices, and the courage that makes us human. As we enter Toledot, we step into a drama that is ancient and utterly current. Siblings who struggle, parents who worry, legacies that aren't guaranteed, and a future that emerges only through wrestling. The newest iteration of our podcast series, Torah in Real Time, will today deal with our understanding of Toledot and how it helps us look at real life happenings such as the raising of the Palestinian flag in Toronto and across Canada, and the imminent sale of F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia. So welcome to it, and we're excited to be here. These are fascinating parshiot, are they not, Rabbi?
They are, because many times we think Bereshit is the beginning of the world, how God created the world. But if you go in Bereshit and Noach, it's actually much more than that. It's a forming of societies, how people have different languages, for example, a
Right.
mystery, right? How families are divided, like what their dynasties looks like, what the culture that they have, and they have different cultures, how professions came into being. And from Lech Lecha, we have a new Bereshit. We have the creation of the Jewish family. And Toldot is no different. It telling the story of the second patriarch, the story of Yitzhak. Until now, we just heard about him taking to the Akedah and to become sacrificed by his father. And next parsha, it's already over. It's about Yaakov. So this one parsha of Toldot is a short story about the life of Yitzchak, and it is fascinating.
So Rivka, she prays to God. She speaks to God about having a child, and in fact, God says, "Yes, you will, because you'll continue the Jewish people, as Abraham and Sarah did with you." And it turns out that she has twins inside of her. And the Torah tells a really fascinating story in the Midrashim that every time she would walk by a Jewish venue, that she would feel this kicking. Turns out it was Jacob, who was excited about the Torah from within there. And every time she would walk by a non-Jewish environment, she would she would feel another kick. Turns out that was Esau. Uh, that in itself is a really compelling piece. When you study that, Rabbi, you study that dynamic of the two inside of her. What does that tell you about what happens inside of a mother prior to a child being born, Is there Jewishness there? Is there a sense of spirituality there?
I'm sure that there is, no question about it. Listen, you form new life. I guess it must be a very unique experience. And the people who think about it, I'm sure that must feel very privileged that they actually were chosen to raise this godly creation that we call human being. But you mentioned the midrashim, and I must say that if I have to choose one parsha where the midrash seems to take life of its own and not to be connected directly to the Torah, is our parsha,
Hmm.
because the midrash portray Esav like the son of Satan himself. Like everything he does is so bad and so evil and so terrible. But when you really read the simple words of the Torah, you know what? Asa was not bad at all.
Yes, that's true.
His father liked him. I'm sure that he wouldn't like him if he was as terrible as our sages are telling us. Um, he respected his father to no end. He's actually the victim here. He's the korban. He lose the brachot because Yaakov cheated him. Um, Instead of killing Jacob, he wait until his father will die because he doesn't want to cause any grief to Yitzchak. I don't know, like when you read the story itself on the surface, not only that you don't see any evil in Esav, you start actually to have some sympathy to him. And who is the bad guy in our parsha? It's actually Yaakov who tricked his father, stole the brachot. But the Midrash somehow find a way to take every word and to turn it against Esav, every word, and to justify Yaakov, which I assume that the Midrash knows the end of the story. When we go to the Bible, there is one sentence, a striking sentence that said that Hashem said, "I hated Esav." Well, this is the word of God to the prophet. I hate Esav. So we have to go back and to re-examine the words of the psukim in our parsha. And you must assume that something in our parsha already tell you that he was an evil person. I also believe that Asa became an archetype to the people who are trying to kill Jacob. Remember, if it was Babylonia or Persia or Spain or France in the Middle Ages, Asav was the Inquisition. Asav was the Soine Israel that tried to kill them. And as such, you had to portray their great grandfather in the worst color you could find. And that's exactly what the Midrash says. But if you really read and learn the Parsha, the picture is different. So I just wanted to comment about the Midrashim, which are exactly as you say, they are very critical of Esav. But I would suggest the intelligent reader, and I believe that these are our listeners, to read carefully the Parsha as it is, and then to compare, only then to compare it to the Midrashim and to try to understand where they came from.
In trying to understand your point more so, the Midrashim would turn Esav into the evil one so that we could somehow identify him in future catastrophes having to do with the Jewish people. In other words, a clear understanding of good and evil. Is that what it is?
In a way, I'll give you just, if you start to read the Parsha, for example, Esav come very tired from the field. He see the food that Yaakov prepare, and they make a deal exchanging the Bechorah, the firstborn, and all the rights coming with it, with the food. So you read the pasuk. Esav came from the field tired. You can understand it. The person spent the entire day in the sun of Israel, in the Negev, hunting animals. He was a tzayad, gibor ish tzayid. But Chazal take the word ayef and say, I'll tell you what is ayef. It's a spiritual, it's a mental tiredness. In this day, he killed people. In this day, he took wives from under their husband and have a relationship with them. You don't see it in the pasuk. You don't. But Chachamim made a point here that the Esav that a Jew knows around him, a descendant of Esav, you can find it already in the original Esav. So there was some reflection from what they saw to the understanding of old Esav, the original Esav. That's the point I try to make.
It's very interesting. Very often when people learn, individuals learn differently. Some learn from a mystical point of view, some from a grammatical point of view. There are two sort of ideas or words within the Parsha that are very close to one another. One is the Bechorah, right? And the other is Bracha. That Esav first, he was willing to give up his birthright, but then later he sought the bracha from his father Yitzchak. And interestingly, his father said to him, "It's too late. I've already given the bracha." And you have to think to yourself, well, what do you mean? Can he not give another bracha to his other son? If your son was staying in front of you and you gave a bracha and then another son came, would you not give another bracha? Why was that Yitzchak's response? I can't give another one.
So I think that you hit actually a very, very important point here. Listen, I'm a Kohen, a priest, and when I give the bracha of Yevarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, it's good for you, for your neighbor, for another person in the shul that you don't know. This bracha, these 15 words, can apply to every person. The bracha that Yitzchak is giving his children is very different. The bracha he gives is, I want God to give you the tools to fulfill the mission of our family. And once Yaakov took this bracha that he is going to lead or to continue the legacy of AVRUM, his father Yitzchak, this is not a bracha that fits also Esav. That's it. A leader can be only one. A person who is responsible for legacy can be only one. And indeed, a bracha that everyone can take about, abundance of the land and fruitful land, Yaakov gave it to Esav. This is not contradicting the bracha of leadership. But the moment Yitzchak realized that the next leader is not going to be Esav, it's going to be Yaakov, he could not give the same bracha to Esav. He could not.
And that's because
this bracha is about Bechora. It's really about the not privilege, but who is responsible for the legacy of the Abrahamic family. And this is going to be Jacob, not Esav.
Rabbi, everybody and anybody who studies this parsha, everybody asks the same question. Here you have Yaakov coming to his father under the auspices of being Esav, and Rivka is consorting with this foolery, if you will, with trying to confuse Yitzchak by dressing up her son in clothing that's ruddy, that maybe smells like the field and like a hunter. And then he gets the bracha from his father. One has to wonder, the question is inevitable, is we're talking about morality here. We're talking about the spirituality, about the God ensuring that the Jewish people continue and do so in the most pure and wonderful ways. How can that possibly be achieved by Yaakov fooling his father? Does the ends justify the means?
It's a great question. Especially when this cheating formed in a way the line of Jewish legacy and dynasty. So basically, Yaakov continued the ways of Abraham and Yitzchak by cheating his father. And this coupled the question, obviously. Because if he would cheat in another opportunity, this is one thing. But the whole existence of Yaakov as a continuation of Abraham and Yitzchak based on such an act of deceiving his father raised major question. And many commentaries try to approach it from different ways, including Rashi, who tried to find in the words all kind of hints that actually, no, he didn't deceive him. He said something that you could hear, could understand in two different ways. He meant one, and Yitzchak understood it in another one, which sometimes is the greatest deception. So I'll tell you what I think, and I think it's very, very important. Certain things in life you cannot get without fight. And the important things in life, your identity, your land, your achievements. I know very few people that their life were, smooth with no need for any fight to achieve something. The great people, every one of them who achieved greatness was a result of a fight. Now, fights have all kind of ways. One is physical struggle. The stronger will defeat the weaker. And there is no question in my mind that Esav, Ish Sadeh, Ish Yodeh Atzai, the person who apparently fought wild animals and other shepherds who tried to take his land and territory, he was stronger than Yaakov. He could defeat him, he could kill him. And that's why Yaakov, at the end of our Parsha, has to run away for his life. Sometimes, this struggle, you will have to adopt all kinds of tactics in order to make your way and to achieve what is important.
Yes.
So what you see through the lens of morality as immoral, we have to see the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that in order to get the bracha from his father, he had to fight, and this was the only way he could fight. He could not fight physically. He could not fight, apparently, even by convincing his father that he is better than Esav. He couldn't. And it was so important for him, and it was so critical to his mother, who knew that the brachot should go to Yaakov, that you have to see it in a greater context than deception. It was a struggle to achieve what was right. Now, he paid the price for it. Our sages are telling us he deceived his father. He was deceived later by his daughter-in-law. Like he was deceived later by his children, who told him about Yosef, and they brought this, the kotonet with the blood. It was not right. I don't try to justify deception. But when deception is the only way to get what is right, you will pay for the deception, but you have to see the deception as part of the strategy and the need to struggle in order to achieve the divine goals and purpose. So I know that it's very hard to accommodate it, because we expect everything that touches the divine realm to be pure and with no deception and no killing. But in the real world, when you have to fight in order to show what is important for you, sometimes the last resort will be deception. So again, as I said, he paid the price for it. but it was the right thing to do.
It's difficult to understand. It's very difficult to understand. It's not the same as Aaron making the Egel HaZahav, is it?
This is a very different theological issue. But I think at this point it was clear the price to get the Bechorah and therefore to continue the legacy of Avram and Yitzchak, apparently the only resort was to do this. Yaakov did not want to do it, remember. It was his mother who forced him to do it and gave him this advice. Yaakov himself did not want to do it. Why? Because I believe he felt like you, that it's immoral. But his mother saw it differently. She saw that the only way that the right person is going to get the blessing to continue the Abrahamic dynasty is this. And from this moment on, she did not consider it as a deception, but as a way to get what you want. Listen, let's take a war, a real war between two nations. The intelligence, a major part of what they have to do is to deceive the other part. Would you say, hey, it's not moral to gain to win the war because you deceived your enemy? Of course, I represent my country, my ideals, and sometimes in order to get my way, I will have to deceive the enemy. So it's not exactly so, but I want to use this idea that deception sometimes is part of a strategy.
Right.
And Yaakov tried not to do it. I'm sure that if there would be a way to do it in another way that Yitzchak could listen to Rivka or could listen to Yaakov, maybe they would try another way. But the Torah is explaining us that this was like a dead end. There was no other way, just this one.
Right. So Rabbi, this actually begs another question. Let's take a step back and speak about why Yitzchak would not have given the bracha to Yaakov, not only because he wasn't the older one, but because he had food in his mouth. You know, the Torah talks about how he loved Esav more. It seems that way. And Rivka loved Yaakov. Now, just a little bit about food in the Torah to sort of enhance my question in a moment. You find many situations of food in the Torah. You find it in the Genesis, in the Garden of Eden. God gives humans every seed-bearing plant and every tree with seed-bearing fruit as food. The patriarchs, and food is seen as a covenant. Food symbolizes hospitality, spiritual encounter, and survival. And then Joseph, food here represents survival strategy and divine foresight by coming up with an explanation for Pharaoh's dreams. There's all kinds of examples of food in the Torah and what it represents. Now, it would seem at first blush that Yitzchak's love of his son Esav was predicated on Esav being a good cook, being a good hunter. It speaks to the character of a man in very almost simple terms. Yet we know that Yitzchak was one of the greatest, Jews who ever existed. How do you see his love for Esav, perhaps in a deeper way?
We would love Esav too, I think. You know what was Esav compared to Yaakov in the eyes of Yitzchak? Many people say that Yitzchak was a very passive character from the Akedah and then his wife. But Yitzchak was very original in one aspect of his life. AVRUM was a shepherd. Yaakov was a shepherd. Yitzchak was a farmer. He was not a shepherd. And why? For a very simple reason. Because once God promised the land to AVRUM and his descendants, Yitzchak took it upon himself to make it happen. He did not want to have just the promise that one day the land is going to be to the descendants of AVRUM. He really took it seriously. And when you want to have A piece of land, you have to protect it. You have to fight other people who want your territory. You have to dig wells. There are many things that the farmer has to do. And Yitzchak was one person. And the Torah is telling us that he had, at a certain point in his life, help. His son Esav. Esav was a person, a hunter, a person who goes to the fields, Ish Sadeh, like his father. And Yitzchak started to see success when Esav was around. If before he faced all kind of anti-Semitic hatred to what he did, we can assume that the moment Esav was strong enough to help his father and to protect him, things have changed. We read in our parsha something very dramatic. The people of Gerar, which by the way were gathered today, hated Yitzchak. When he dug a well, they made sure to clog it so he will not be able to use it. But at the end of the parsha, they want to have a peace treaty with him. What happened here?
Yeah.
You tell me what happened. And I think the answer is very, very simple. Esav was around. And Esav was the guy that you don't want to mess with. He was a soldier. He was a Sayeret Matkal of Yitzchak. Think about how we see our soldiers protecting the land of Israel. Who are the heroes? The people who learn in the yeshiva or the people who are protecting our borders?
Yes.
And now you get exactly why Yitzchak loved Esav and not so much Yaakov. Yaakov was Ishualim. He was a person at home. But Yitzchak was a person that protected the land, and Esav was his companion. He was the person who stick to this mission of having the land and fighting for it, and therefore he loved him. Like we love our hero soldiers and the people who protect our land. I don't see any difference. Rivka saw something different.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Rivka saw something different. At the end of the day, the Jewish legacy is not only territory, it's also values, it's also the way you treat other people. And although there was something great about Esav, she thought that maybe Esav reminded her own family, where she came from, and Yaakov was the Ishualim, a person who is more about the Jewish values, about the Torah that AVRUM and Yitzchak had, not exactly the Torah we have, but more philosophy and the way people have to treat each other, the virtues that a person has to achieve. And she saw that this is going to be more important in order to continue the legacy of AVRUM and Yitzchak. And at the end of the day, it was a machloket between the two. What is more important for Jewish continuity? Either the army represented by Esav or the yeshiva world as represented by Yaakov. And at the end of the day, if you think about the scene of Yaakov having the clothes of Esav, you get the perfect person. You have inside Yaakov and you have at the outside Esav. And to me, this is the story of Medinat Israel today. We have the people of Torah, the people of Jewish values, and this is the core, but we have a very strong army that help us to fulfill the promise of God. Lecha eten et haaretz hazot. I'm going to give this land for you and for your descendants.
That's a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
That's lovely. And it speaks to the idea that the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau, right?
Exactly.
The pasuk in the Torah.
I once heard that Rav Kook, who was the first rabbi of Israel, he once took some other prominent rabbis from Jerusalem, and he went to visit the Moshavot. It's well-known, Masa Moshavot. He went to Degania and to other Moshavot, Zichron Yaakov, and other Moshavot, we are talking about 140 years ago, to give them chizuk. Now, the Moshavot were populated with people, many of them were not Shomer Shabbos or eating kosher. They were people who came from Europe, from Eastern Europe, but they left everything behind them, their families, their homes, and their traditions. And this was one of the issues that separated Rav Kook, who loved these people, although he wanted to bring them closer to tshuva from the rabbis of Yerushalayim, who could not grasp how, like, the renewal of the Jewish people going to happen by people who don't care about Torah. And one night, I think it was in Migdal, one of the Moshavot, they met the people who came from the work. They were tired, but Rav Kook wanted to talk to them, and as a sign of respect, they all came to the dining hall at night. And Rav Kook asked one of the mityashvim, this chalutzim, he asked him to give him his clothing and his rifle, and he gave him. And he came and he started to dance. He wanted to say, like, I'm Rabbi Kook, but you have to understand how much I admire what you do for the Jewish people. And when I read this story, I thought, you know what it is? It's actually reviving the story of Hakol Kol Yaakov, Vayadayim Yedei Esav. Because if you want to have like a country, a Jewish country, you need Esav and you need Jacob. And if they coexist together, this will be wonderful. Unfortunately, now there is too much tension about it, but I believe that one day we will learn to work together. The people of Torah, the people of doing things, the people of the army, we will all function as a team and not teams who fighting each other.
By the way, in that light, I was asking our friend Rabbi Koropkin at the Bayit Synagogue here in Toronto for any people whom he might have who could speak to the whole issue surrounding Haredim not wanting to go to the army. His response to me was very unique. It was very conciliatory. He said, Avram, rather than concentrating on the negative side of things, why don't we concentrate on the pluga, on the group of Haredim that are in the army, and support them and try to understand what they're doing towards the war effort. And I thought that was reasonable.
Listen, the truth is, this is a nice approach. In every disagreement I find in life, in my professional life, in my personal life, in political life, I try to understand the other side. Now, most times, I don't change my mind so quickly, but I love to hear what the other side have to say. Because, if you learn Talmud, you learn something very, very important. The two opposite sides, I don't want to use the cliche of Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chaim. Both of them are divinely words of God, because I'm not sure that I understand this expression to the full of it. But I would say the following: you start to appreciate that every opinion comes from a profound point of thinking and a profound point of truth. Maybe it's not your truth, maybe it's not the truth for your time, but in a certain situation, you might find the opposite opinion to have some truth. And to me, I wouldn't run away from trying to understand the Haredi people. I don't agree with them. I was in a Haredi yeshiva and I left after a year to serve in the army, and I'm very happy that I did it. But if you take all the noise and all the silly guys who have no idea what they are talking about, and you think about the real philosophy of the yeshiva world, I can understand it. I can explain it. At the end of the day, I might disagree with it. And I think that here the social media and the media in general miss the point. Listen, here is the point which I think is very, very important, and I'm not going to go into the Haredi and anti-Haredi issue. to understand the Haredi side, you have to understand what does it mean to be Haredi. If you belong to the other side and you never experience Shabbat, or you never experience the structure of the Jewish Haredi community, or you don't understand what is a tzaddik or the Rebbe or the rabbi, you will never be able to understand their point. I have the privilege, I would say, to know something about it. I'm again, sometimes now because of the Kaddish, I have to go to all kind of minyanim, which are not my community. And I feel like a stranger, but at the same time, I'm not that a stranger. I know exactly like what is a rabbi status in this community. What is the meaning of Shmirat Mitzvot mean in this community. And therefore, when they say things that I don't agree with, but I know where they come from. And this make a big, big difference.
Yeah. Yes.
So if you don't find anybody to explain the Haredi opinion, it's not good, because the best thing is to hear it from someone who is a real Haredi. But I think I understand them very well. And by the way, it's not only about the Haredim. If you ask me tomorrow to explain the radical left, I will explain it to you too. I think that I understand their point. I disagree with them completely, but I know where they come from.
Yeah, so we'll have to do an Elu V'Elu show, see how that goes. Very interesting what you're saying. And by the way, when I was saying Kaddish too, I ended up in some Haredi shuls. And in many ways, I did feel at home because I went to a Haredi yeshiva. Do I agree with everything they say? Certainly not. But there was a sense of, yeah, I get where you guys are coming from as well. So point well taken.
Yeah.
Rabbi, the Torah portion asks who is truly worthy of a blessing, correct? Who's worthy of a blessing? How do contemporary political gestures, like the flag raising here in Toronto, the Palestinian flag raising, raise questions about who's granted symbolic recognition and how communities understand blessings or legitimacy in the public square?
And again, I think if you read carefully the Parsha, there is no flag in our Parsha, as far as I remember. But I'll tell you something about symbols. Because it says that when Yitzchak dug the wells, the Torah is telling us that he gave them names. Now, you might ask yourself, well, a well is a source of water. That's what's important. If it's to water the field, if it's to water and to give water to the animals, whatever the case is, why is it important to give them names?
Yes.
The names are the flags of today. Everyone knows that this place, this area, is the territory of Esek or Sitna, the name that Yitzchak gave, or Rehovot. Symbols and names have significance, no question about it. If you think about Palestine, just think about the word Palestine. Palestine is a word that the Roman Caesar gave Israel in order to uproot the name Israel from the territory, because he didn't want people to come back to Israel. For him, Israel was gone. It had to be something new. His historians told him that once the Philistines lived in the era of Israel, okay, let's call it Palestine. Why it was so important? Because the names, flags, means a lot. Many people say, a flag, what's the big deal? It's a big deal because it's a recognition of the people behind the name and behind the flag. And Yitzchak knew it, and therefore he makes sure to give them his names. So everyone recognized this place as his. With, if you take the Palestinian flag, the black and the red and the white and the green, it means something, at least to them. And Yitzchak knew this secret. This is a very ancient secret. If you want to represent your ideas, sometimes you do it by names, by flags, by songs. And I have to say, in this regard, nothing has changed in the last 5,000 years, especially not in the Middle East. So what Yitzhak is doing is what the Palestinians are doing with raising their flag. They want to show the world we are going to be victorious. Exactly as Yitzhak, lehavdil, wanted to say, I'm going to call the wells after me, after my endeavors, because I want the world to know about it. And my hope, to be honest with you, is that exactly as the Parsha ends with the episode of Pichol and Avimelech, the kings of Gerar, which is basically very close to Gaza of today, they recognized the power and the bracha that Hashem gave Yitzchak, and they came to sign a treaty with Yitzchak. And I really hope that this is going to happen these days as well. I really hope so. That at a certain point, some people will stop and say, there is something special about this nation. People went through so much troubles. And not only that they were not defeated, they are in the forefront of the most innovative fronts of the world. We have to do something about it. And maybe the best way to go is to sign a treaty with them. And look what happened with Saudi Arabia. Look what happened with other countries. At the end of the day, they want to sign a treaty. Okay, they have all kinds of conditions, but I think it comes from realization that the Jewish people have their own land, they have the right to their own land, and we are going to be blessed through them. This is a very high recognition of this nation that are aligning to sign peace treaty with Israel.
You know what's fascinating, by the way, as you speak about the flags and the importance of it, above your head, outside the school, there's an Israeli flag
You can see it.
and a Canadian flag blowing.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Rabbi, Esau sells his birthright, underestimating the long-term impact of doing that. In what ways might governments selling advanced weapon systems, such as the fifth generation F-35 jets to Saudi Arabia, the U.S. doing so, be making decisions that prioritize short-term alliances over long-term regional stability?
This is too big for me, I must say. I don't know what is behind it, and I really hope that it's not going to give a power to our enemies. Saudi Arabia needed maybe against Iran. Maybe it will be used only against them. You have to remember that they gave us permission to fly over them when we attacked Iran. Politics is the art of the impossible. This is a very well-known truth, and many times I think I have to add the bracha, שלא עשני גוי, שלא עשני עבד, שלא עשני אישה, שלא עשני ראש ממשלה, that he did not make me like a prime minister. I think this is the greatest bracha.
Yeah, I agree.
I wouldn't know what to do as a prime minister. This is a huge responsibility. And listen, we have to remember at the end of the day, and I think we also learned it from Yitzhak. Yitzhak knew that sometimes the greatest fight is by not fighting. He dug the well, they blocked it, he dug another well. Why didn't he fight? Because he knew that he's a stranger, he's one person in the entire space of another territory, another kingdom. Sometimes restraining yourself and achieving a small achievement and not gambling on the achieving everything is the essence of resilience. So I believe that Israel maybe have to swallow this frog. We would prefer them not to have it, but at the same time, me and you running a podcast, but we don't run the Middle East, which is a very complicated arena. So we have to trust our leaders and Hashem that no harm will come as a result of it. But we have to accept the fact that we are not alone in the Middle East.
Rabbi, I mentioned before that there are many different ways of studying Torah. One is through the milim, one is through the words themselves. And there's a pasuk in the Torah, Genesis 26:1, that Isaac went to Avimelech. Vayelech Yitzchak la'Avimelech. Rashi says Isaac wanted to go to Egypt as AVRUM had during famine, but God told him that he had to stay because he was a nolat mima, which I'll let you explain, sanctified and may not leave the land. The Ramban, the Hebrew Vayelech, indicates not just travel but deliberate, covenantal movement. Isaac is seeking alliance and stability in a time of crisis. And the Radak notes that Avimelech is likely a dynastic title, not a personal name,
Like
mirroring continuity between generations, just as the covenant continues. So it's fascinating how Meforshim will take a word or will take a phrase within the Torah and determine from that what the context is speaking of.
I sometimes think that maybe they saw the context and they went back, like they deduced from the context what the meaning of words. So Mefarshim has a different way. Some of them are going from the word to the concept. Some of them are going from the concept to the word. And at the end of the day, there is it's quite clear that God did not want Yitzchak to go to Egypt. What the reason is, Rashi suggests that he was like a holy person. He was almost sacrificed to Hashem as a korban. And Hashem said, no, people like you have to live their life in a holy place. You stay in Israel no matter what. But also you have to take into account what I said before. Yitzchak is a stranger in a space belongs to Avimelech, to the Philistines, which are not, by the way, the Philistines that we are going to meet later. And he has to find a way how to deal with the powers of the time. Because being powerful means that the king had no problem to take your wife. We saw it by Paro in Egypt, and Yitzchak was afraid that the same is going to happen to his wife. Power meant I can do whatever I want. No one will tell me what to do. It's a very dangerous situation. And Hashem told him basically by staying there, you will have to deal with foreign powers and to be successful. And you will be successful. But you have to learn how to do it.
Well, when you study Torah, do you study Targum Unclus? Do you study the Milim?
A little bit, yes. Many times I find in the words lots of context. But I would say that this was the way I learned as a child and even years later more. It started with the words. And I understood the Torah like pasuk by pasuk, chapter by chapter. It's only later in life that I started to read the story. I did not see the trees anymore, but I started to see the forest, which is much more magnificent sight, I must say. Because then everything coming together and you see the bigger picture and you see how one story lead to the other and the necessity of one story for the other. You start to see it more as a literature, divine literature, but still literature that always highlight the story, the forest, and the trees are just what build the forest, but your sight is on the forest.
Yeah, I feel that I'm at that place as well in terms of my own learning. And you're right. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And not only it's when you're learning Torah, but it's when, for instance, I'm reading a novel or a book. I'm currently reading a book by John Steinbeck called Travels with Charlie. It's about John Steinbeck traveling throughout America and with his dog Charlie. And in it, he discussed extensively the life that exists within a desert. So when you were speaking before about Asaph going out into the desert and hunting, I understood more so what does life in a desert mean, right? Because we think there's only death in a desert, but it's not true.
I think that in our previous sessions, I think that we spoke about Grape of Wrath. Wasn't it Parshat Toledot? Maybe one of these parashot, and I think that we connected it because John Steinbeck indeed had a very profound insight into the life of farmers and people who work their land and the special connection that the farmer had with its land. Very interesting.
Rabbi, in conclusion, I have a poem from AI. It's called Toledot, a poem of generations and the world we inherit. This week we opened Toledot, a portion named for generations, yet nothing here unfolds in a straight line. Continuity arrives crooked, through tension, longing, and the wild beating of human hearts. Isaac and Rebekah stand firm in the frame, the Torah's only monogamous pair. Two souls hoping, praying, waiting for a future that refuses to come easily. The fight that you were talking about before. Their silence is a prayer. Their prayer becomes a cry. Their cry becomes two children. Twins born in contrast. Twins born in conflict. Twins who inherit a world already trembling. Jacob and Esau tumble into being like fire and stillness colliding in the womb. One red, fierce, and unfiltered. One quiet, deliberate, measuring what destiny might yield. Even before their first breath, they wrestle with purpose. They wrestle with God. They wrestle with the shape of tomorrow. In Toledot, the family itself is the battlefield. Isaac searching for blessing. Rebekah wrestling with prophecy. Esau aching for love but surrendering his birthright. Jacob navigating disguise, ambition, and the unbearable weight of expectations he never asked to carry. Nothing is simple, but every moment is unforgettable. And the portion turns towards us to our blessings inherited, our blessings contested, the ones we grasp with trembling hands, the one that slips through us because we were tired, too hungry, too human to see them. It asks us how we shape our generations, not just through halacha or history, but through imperfection, through choices that bruise as much as they bless, through courage that rises from contradiction. And so, Toledot meets the moment we live in, siblings who struggle, parents who worry, legacies that fracture, and a future that emerges only through wrestling. Today, in a Torah in real time, we hold the ancient text beside the world outside our windows, the Palestinian flag raised in Toronto and across Canada, sending shockwaves through a community already stretched thin, the imminent sale of F-35 fighters jets to Saudi Arabia, another layer of complexity in a region already carved by rivalry and ambition, and the haunting echoes of past generation choices.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Very nice.
Rabbi, I want to wish you Yisha Koach on the Parsha and Torah in real time. I think that we're slowly but surely figuring this out, and it's going quite nicely. Yisha Koach on your Torah. I quite enjoyed it today.
Thank you very much, AVRUM, and I'll see you next week with Hashem.
We look forward to it. Folks, if you want to be in touch with us, you can find my email at the bottom of the screen. You can find the rabbis as well. Please feel free to ask any questions or issues that you'd like us to deal with having to do with the Parah or current events. Until we meet again, as my dear mother, Zacharenu Livracha, used to say, my sister Etty's been correcting me, Rabbi, that I'm saying that wrongly. For a female, how do you say Zacharenu Livracha?
Zichrona Livracha. Zichrona.
There we go. So I learned something. And my mother used to say, Sei gesund, go in good health, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you so much.